At the end of June 2015, we were on the road for another visit to Wiltshire in southern England, the Bermuda Triangle of crop circles. We invite you to come with us on this exciting journey, where we go and see crop circles from inside, talking to people who were visiting the circles, talking to a farmer and have a great conversation with Charles Mallett, one of the best known researchers in the field of crop circles. Charles gave us some exciting inside knowledge and informations. Our trip took us roughly 720 miles, which is about 1,200 kilometers, through parts of Switzerland, the north of France and over the channel from Calais to the port of Dover, and from there on straight up to Wiltshire. A 17-hour trip which gave us enough time to grow the feelings for the upcoming imminent adventure. Even more when we arrived at the port of Dover and then drove up the last 160 kilometers to the area of Honey Street, Wiltshire. At this point, we felt the enthusiasm growing to a max and we talked about what we might go to experience in the next few days. Happy and with these feelings, we enjoyed the first evening at the destination of our trip. With the beautiful view and the upcoming moon in front of us, we talked until sunrise before we finally took a few hours of sleep. On the next day we started our search for existing crop circles in the region. While on the road to the Silent Circle, the information corner for crop circles, which is run by Charles Mallett, we drove through the small streets of Wiltshire when suddenly and by chance one of us saw it. Our first crop circle this year, lying there on top of a hillside. Fortunately, there was a small car park directly underneath this small hill where we could park our Hangar18b RV. With the information of two croppies who have already visited this circle, we now knew exactly where to enter the field and how to find the right tram lines into the circle. Our first impression of the circle was that this one seemed to have been here for at least some days. The circle could not be new, and a lot of the crop stalks were already beginning to rise up again. And we saw that the crop circle had been considerably damaged due to rain or wind or many visits of people. If one looks from the top at the circle, you can see that this crop circle has a very poor geometry. The arches which are from this view on top are not aligned exactly, and it looks like the one on the top left side had not been finished. For someone who looks into the crop circle topic for the first time, this could be enough to think that this one is clearly man-made. However, as you will hear later from Charles Mallett, this must not necessarily be the case. Geometry is not the key to decide whether it's a real crop circle, and by real we mean that one cannot define how a circle was produced or how it appeared, or if a circle is man-made. And of course there are people who are creating crop circles. You will also hear about that later. We also wondered what others who are visiting these circles are thinking, and we met some very nice people and asked them some questions.
Well, this one actually looks as if something's squashed everything, doesn't it? Yeah. Whereas some of them, when they make them, it doesn't even, the grass doesn't break.
Yeah. No.
That's when it's...
And the older they are, the more the wheat starts to spring back, don't they?
I feel a bit sorry for the farmer though, because they're losing quite a lot of wheat, aren't they? If it's ruined, you know, and it's not fully grown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you've got other people tramping in. I mean, we've been quite careful the way we came in, but.
So is it the first one now you saw
this year? This year. I know there's been quite a few. There's been about 26, I think, so far this year.
26?
All over the world. I don't know how many around here.
Yeah. You found about 4 when you were looking last night.
Yeah, about 4.
About 4.
On the local area.
May and June.
The crop circle connector. And so I'd go and find Charles
Oh, there's so much we don't know, isn't
Yeah.
There is.
But it is an interesting subject, isn't it? It fascinates me.
This is crop circle central.
This is, yeah. And the fantastic thing is that when you drive along, I mean, I remember one year driving along one of the roads, and you could see, you know, I saw about 3 on, you know, just from the road, you could see them, and they look, you know, fantastic from the road.
I think we have a lot of ley lines here in this region. So
and it does run along the top of there, on that path along there.
Okay.
And then it bends, then it bends out to where we go. Yeah. And then it goes basically up to Avebury.
Yeah.
So basically, I think it definitely runs along there. I've got the maps at home.
I think it's an alien spacecraft has landed here.
Probably.
Don't you think? And sort of the sort of beams and the air coming from it has flattened everything. I think that's
I see people come along here and they get really big bamboo sticks and they walk along like this and they trod them.
Yes, that's what they have. But I watched a programme where they were showing people doing that, and they look different. When they're man-made like that, they actually look different to some of the others. And so it's explaining why do they look different, you know? And also it took them a lot of people in order to do it overnight. It took a lot of people. And some of these crop circles are really complicated and very beautiful to look at. And so you think, well, could anybody have actually done that in the space of one night?
They disappear in one night.
Yeah, it's only sort of 3 or 4 hours of darkness, remember, in the sun. You don't get a lot of darkness. So
and nobody sees them doing it, you see. This is the fascinating thing, you know. I wonder if it's something in the earth. Or some sort of magnetic,
Why would it only be in this region?
It's not only in this region, it's all over the world.
But it happens a lot in the corn, you know, in the corn and maize belt in America.
Yeah.
You get it in deserts as well.
Do you?
Get them in deserts in Africa.
What, just in...
Just circles. Just
in the
patterns, crop circles.
Yeah. Amazing, really.
What, on the sand?
Yeah.
Wow, I haven't seen those. Yeah.
So there's something going on, but you know, we know so little, don't we?
Yeah.
It's actually, unless we actually keep exploring it, we're not going to find out, are we?
Our journey took us to some of the most remarkable landmarks and monuments in the region, such as Silbury Hill, Avebury, and this time for a longer stay to West Kennet Longborough. West Kennet Longborough is a Neolithic tomb situated on a ridge near Silbury Hill and is, with about 100 meters, one of the longest barrows in Britain. The construction of the Longborough is dated to 3600 BC, which is about 400 years before Stonehenge was built, and had an estimated usage of around 1000 years. Due to an advice from a guy we met near Avebury, we set out for a circle which was located in a slightly remote area about 2 miles or roughly 3 kilometers off from the nearest car park. Packed with our drone, with its batteries, the cameras and a lot of other stuff, we walked up the ridge in beautiful weather, which turned out to be a bit too hot for a walk, especially if you forget to take some water with you. After a walk of about 40 minutes, we arrived at the circle, and we could not believe what we saw. It was already mowed down, but in a manner which shows that the farmer mowed not the entire field, but just a circle. Obviously, somebody doesn't like crop circles in his or her field. What a pity, we were too late. But nonetheless we decided to enter the circle or what had been left of it. Despite of the situation, we took some measurements and took a look at the debris field before we made our way back to the car park. If visiting this region and if you are interested in crop circles, you definitively have to pay a visit at the Barge Inn pub at Honey Street. The Barge Inn is one of the meeting points of crop circle enthusiasts. It has an entire room set up with crop circle pictures, a map and of course a fantastic painting on the wall and the ceiling, called the crop circle ceiling. This remarkable painting, which shows crop circles, Silbury Hill, Stonehenge and a lot of other motifs, was done by Vince Palmer in 1997 and revisited also by Vince in 2011. The Barge Inn is a good spot to learn more about crop circles and to meet people who are knowledgeable about the topic. And last but not least, to have a special beer. The Barge Inn has several funny beers such as Alien Abduction beer, which is in fact green, or Crappie, which is brewed in Wiltshire. And of course one can chat with a lot of interesting and kind people. What do you think regarding crop circles?
What do I think?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you hear so many different things. You never quite know what the truth is.
Yeah.
But normally, after a big weekend, there are a few more.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But you never know. You never know. So that's the good thing about round here, is that nobody really has an answer for you.
Yeah, sure.
Which I think is the best.
So, have you seen people who are doing crop circles? Or?
I've never seen anyone do it.
But you know, some
people have said they've done it.
Yeah.
But you never see them do it.
Yeah, it's a mystery, which is cool.
It is. But it's a fun mystery, and I think that's the best thing.
Yeah. I think the farmers are a bit upset in the last years, I've heard. We saw two which were mowed down, and we talked to a farmer, and he said he immediately go out and cut it down.
Really? Some farmers are like that, but most of them round here don't do that. So they find it as fun as everybody else.
Okay, good.
And that's the good thing. Yeah.
And you're here since ever? Are you born here? Or,
No, I'm not from round here, but I live here now. Yeah, everyone just comes here. There's lots of people that aren't from round here, and it's a nice bunch of people. Everyone lives together, and it's a nice community. But with visitors sometimes, hopefully. The pub is sort of like the centre of it all, but this is just a nice place to be, and I think we never have any trouble around here. It's nice.
So we probably should stay for
I think you should. Yeah, most people do. It's the Bermuda Triangle.
Thank you very much. At the Barge Inn we also learned that the crop circle, which was located very closely, was probably standing for a silent protest against the military. In the area around the pub there are a lot of military facilities, and there are military planes and helicopters over the fields every day. We also saw these aircrafts day and night. Okay, this one is probably not military. Moreover, at one night the military gave us a private firework when they shoot flares exactly in the direction we looked at when we sat on our table and enjoyed our night watch. This catch is great, as one can clearly see that the flares are very easy to identify as such. The next time you hear someone saying that witnesses of UFO sightings have just seen flares, think twice. Especially if the witnesses are familiar with things like flares, such as pilots, military personnel, etc. We decided to visit this circle, which seemed to be man-made anyway. Inside the circle it looked like it was mowed down. Instead of showing that the crop was laid down, there were dispersed pieces of the plants all over the place. The field in which the circle was located gave a great view to the Alton Barns White Horse. The circle itself represents a typical peace sign, and it could well be that this is a message to the military. All in all, not a very interesting circle for us, but the view from top is always worth to enjoy. Now it was time to visit Charles Mallett at his spot, the Silent Circle. Charles is located at the Wiltshire Microlight Centre, a small airfield in Yatesbury 2 miles west of Avebury. Charles welcomed us warmly and took the time to speak with us extensively.
Thank you very much that we can be here, and
that's right.
Charles,
well, essentially, you know, I come to Wiltshire in 1997 to look at the crop circles because I had been researching UFOs and paranormal matters, hidden history, suppressed information, all the same kind of stuff that we're looking into. And you know, I was living 150 miles away. I'd never seen a crop circle, so I wanted to come and see for myself. So I got a backpack full of food, put my hiking boots on, and just came here. Started sleeping on the edges of fields, you know, with a camera, waiting for it to happen, you know, and became pretty well convinced that at least some of the crop circles are not something that I could attribute to human mechanical production, you know, as in man-made, you know. Lots and lots of these are clearly hoaxed, made by people with planks of wood, and you can see the evidence on the ground. But outside of that, there seemed to be a section of the crop circles in very particular kinds of crop that couldn't be, the physical effect that we were seeing on the ground could not be reproduced with a man with a plank of wood crunch, 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 crunch on the plants, because people do particular types of damage. As a kind of field investigator, that's what I would look for, damage the plants to see if it's a hoax. You know, whenever I've seen a crop circle in a type of plant that I can't really understand how this could be done, I would try and reproduce that myself, you know. Say the oilseed rape, you know, the yellow flowering plants, these are very, very delicate plants, you know, they're kind of like, almost like celery. So if I stand on those, I'll generally put a huge ugly break in the bottoms of the plants, scrape the stem with my plank of wood, the flowers will get damaged, and it's kind of just very obvious that it's been made mechanically. But I've seen and recorded crop circles in that same type of crop that I could not reproduce because there's no damage on the plants at all. Even, you know, people can make shapes in fields. It's been done a lot of times for media, television commercials, movies. So a shape can be made in field. It can be considered quite artistic sometimes, you know. Sometimes they're really amazing just to look at on their own. But there are all the other factors to consider. It's not about the shape, it's about the physical evidence up close, on the ground, on the first day before people start walking on it.
You told before that you were sleeping in the fields, and in the morning there was a crop circle when you stood up. So did you see something there? How it was produced, or?
No, I've never actually seen you know, the crop falling over. But on occasions when I have slept on the edges of fields, you know, and yes, I have gone to sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning and there's been nothing happening. You know, I can hear people talking 200 or 300 meters away in car parks behind me, and you know, I've got a dead still, dead quiet field in front of me, and say 1:30 in the morning, there's nothing there. By 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, occasionally, I've woken up on the edge of a field and there's been new crop circles there. And in those situations, those circles look perfect and clean. You know, even when you think that you get like a heavy dew on crop, you know, the crops get very wet during the night, and you walk up the tram lines into the field and your legs get soaked and it all runs down your legs and your boots get covered in mud walking up the fields, and you start, you know, you leave muddy boot prints all over the circles. And you would kind of think that, okay, if this is done by people, there's going to be mud on the plants, there's going to be evidence where they walked, there's going to be evidence where they were trampling the crops. And very, very often there is, but sometimes there's not. And to me, that's when it's interesting. We had one made over in a field just over here a few weeks ago for the History Channel for Ancient Aliens. And you know, it was a reproduction of one that was made in 2005. The original in 2005 I thought was genuine. Ancient Aliens got in touch with me, said, you know, we want to do an experiment with a crop circle. Choose one which you think was real or impossible to make, and we'll have one reproduced by the best circle hoaxers in the world. And they did. They got the shape quite good. It was just a kind of a flower shape, you know. And from the air, most people would have thought, yeah, that's good. That's a good crop circle. And at the time, it was actually the best one of the year. But On the ground, yeah, so the idea was, as a field investigator, I would go into the circle on the ground afterwards and look at see if they'd done any damage, or see if they didn't do any damage, you know, see if it was like the original.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that these are supposed to be the best circle makers on the planet.
Yeah.
So, you know, they finish the crop circle and do their filming and all of this, then I go in there on the camera and I see the same pattern of damage as I would in any man-made crop circle in oilseed rape, you know, there's crunch, crunch, crunch. So if you imagine, they'll press the crop down, and all of those plants in that strip would be broken or scraped in some way. And then they would take a step forward and do the same again. So all of the stuff in between the steps is okay. But so there's a crunch mark and a crunch mark and a crunch mark, and it goes all the way around and everywhere. So they broke about 20% of the plants in the circle. The rest of it was kind of okay. And all in all, they'd done, you know, they were very sporting, they'd done a good job, and they'd done their job, I'd done my job. And in a way, it proved the point, you know, in my opinion at least. It showed that this was nothing like the original crop circle from 2005. And it kind of confirmed something, you know, it confirmed that, yeah, at least I know that in a controlled situation, the best circle hoaxes in the world, claimed to be the best crop circle hoaxes in the world, couldn't reproduce the effect that was really visible in the original. So that was kind of interesting. So I think that's actually going out later this year.
Looking forward for that.
Yeah, I mean, it should be okay. I mean, who knows? I've done 7 hours with them. They'll probably take 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the idea is, in a way, to kind of separate silly stuff and compartmentalise the more serious stuff. So the more serious stuff can be looked at in a much more objective and rational way. What I considered a part of my research in the early days was, you know, if I found crop circles that were real, or I thought were real, I would sleep in them, you know, on the first day, preferably on the first night, you know, and or maybe over several nights. And, you know, sometimes doing that, I would experience or see objectively weird stuff, you know, weird orbs of light in the crop circles, or very curious observations from military helicopters over the circles. There's been a lot of very weird stuff associated with and recorded and reported around this subject. It's certainly a lot more than just shapes in fields. Last year there was a very interesting circle in Holland, in maize, sweet corn, you know, 2 meters high, thick brittle stems, you know, I bend them over, they all break, and this kind of stuff, you know. And there was several actually in Holland last year, but one in particular where it was only a single circle, you know, 23 feet in diameter, was 7 or 8 meters wide. Just a single circle in maize, and all the plants are swirled down and laid over each other. But there's no breaking or scraping on those plants. The roots are still in the ground, and the stems are kind of curved out of the ground. And it's like, wow, that's impressive on its own. I've never seen one in England like that. And then I asked the person if they could go back on the 3rd day, so 2.5 days later, to take some more photos and closer pictures. And when they went back, all of the plants were all back up in the air. They were all back upright again. I showed this to some farmers, you know, including one Dutch farmer and 2 separate English farmers. Said, is there anything, any process in nature or anything that you can think of that can explain the recovery of these plants in 2.5 days? And 3 farmers said absolutely not at that stage of growth, you know, because the plants they had finished growing vertically, and they were at the kind of the young cobs on the plants was just starting to grow, which means the stem has to support a lot of weight. So these plants were big, thick, heavy-duty, rigid plants, which weigh a lot. For those plants to get up again within 2.5 days, you know, you do get natural processes that phototropism, it will bring the plants back up to a degree, the tops of the plants, like in young green wheat. But young green wheat is not 2 meter high, heavy maize plants. Yeah, I mean, it's been, as well as having a lot of weird and personal encounters, you know, in crop circles and around the subject, you know, in a way, in crop circles, in my opinion, I've seen enough physical evidence and had enough weird encounters to pretty much conclude to my own satisfaction that we're not alone, you know, we're not alone, that there's a whole other reality right there. It's not nuts and bolts flying saucers, but it's reality, and it's just different frequencies, different levels of reality, but there's other stuff that we're a part of in a much, much bigger picture. Cool.
Thank you again.
That
was brilliant, and was also a nice experience for us to meet you. And
yeah, likewise. It's always nice to meet people that know that.
But this was not all Charles talked about. The whole interview, which is more than interesting and we recommend strongly, will be released by us soon. As Charles mentioned, there was a crop circle very near the silent circle, probably only 200 meters away up on a small hill. After the talk with Charles, we decided to visit this circle straight away. By arriving at the nearby space where we could park, we already saw that there is a tractor in the field, exactly on the spot where we assumed the circle would be. We felt that we are too late again, but anyway started our short walk to the circle. Upon arrival on the hill, we saw that we were right. The farmer was mowing down the circle in front of our eyes. We were again too late. So if there is no more crop circle, just a farmer who had been busy destroying it, we wanted to know from him the reason and what his probably legitimate intentions were to do that. Fortunately, he was very kind and agreed to speak with us in front of the camera.
We spend all year, looking after the crop.
Sure.
And you get so close to harvest that then someone goes and ruins it, and it just costs money. And
sure.
there's no need for people to come and do it. And it's shocking, really. Yeah. So it was a very poor crop circle as well. It wasn't very good.
Okay.
But we get them, but all the farmers in this area are quite happy now just to cut them all out, and eventually people will stop making them because they do all their work at night, and then by the time the sun's up the next morning, we've cut them out.
Yeah.
So
how is it with the tourists which come more and more? Is probably also a problem, or are they behave well?
The tourists, they turn up to look at them, and they don't do any damage. It's just the fact that we don't want them there in the first place. We don't want the crop circles there. So this is what we do, and we got to do what we think is best for ourselves, really.
So you think that all of those are made by men? So
without a shadow of a doubt. Every year someone gets caught doing it. If it were aliens that done it, it'd be quite nice, I suppose. But it is a myth.
Sure,
It is a myth. Until we catch them doing it themselves, we'll treat it as a myth. So,
thank you. It's
one of those things, but there we go.
Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye. Bye.
As time runs always fast, we knew that we didn't have much time to find another circle. This time hopefully an intact one. This would make a perfect ending to our amazing and interesting trip to this remarkable region. Fortunately, we had received another tip from Charles which we followed. And this time good luck was on our side. Right at the entrance of the field was a huge donation box decorated with pictures of the circle and an explanation that the money collected in the box will be donated to a charity organization. This seemed to be a farmer who liked crop circles. We entered the field and walked as always only in the tram lines so that no more of the crop will be damaged. This crop circle was much more complex than the other ones we have visited, but it had already been here for some days. Nonetheless, this one made a great finish to our adventure and we enjoyed the time in the circle. We knew that end of June was a bit early in the crop circle season, but this was not arrangeable different this time. But that did not bother us. Instead, we enjoyed our time and benefited of not so many tourists yet. Also, people like Charles had time for a long talk with us. As mentioned, the full interview with Charles will come out soon and is definitively worth to see and hear. We had an amazing time in Wiltshire, a region which is definitively very special. We spoke to a lot of interesting and kind people enjoyed the firework from the military for free, and came back with a huge amount of impressions, and somehow a very good feeling inside of us which can't be explained easily. Hopefully this was not our last visit, and hopefully we'll chase the crop circles in the near future again.